I started to work with the Coca-Cola company in Malta. That led to me being asked to become the general manager of that particular company and run that company. So I had this opportunity now to take my leadership management into business, which is what I did. And I worked for that company for 2 years. I then left and moved on to another company. And then, funnily enough, after a while, I came back to the same group of companies because Coca-Cola belonged to a group of companies, and I started to work in an electrical retail company as the general manager. So I was getting this experience of helping companies improve their performance and grow and develop and get better at what the company provided in terms of products and services and performance. And I enjoyed that. Now, while I was doing that, I had another ambition, and that was to become a football coach. So I started to coach various football teams in Malta, took my qualifications and so on, and started to coach. And I ended up, with my time in Malta, taking a complete year out of business to achieve a long-held ambition to be a professional football coach. And I did that for a season, and we were quite successful. Not surprisingly, because football and business, it's all about improving the performance of people, improving the performance of individuals, and then taking those individuals and building them into a high-performing team. That's what we do in business, that's what we do in football. And there are many parallels that I take from football coaching into my business life.
So if we that was a question in my mind, that whenever you have been in the leadership coaching in a professional context with an organization, and when you are doing a professional football coaching, what was the similarities and what was the difference, if there was any?
Well, the similarities are many. First of all, you're working with people and you're trying to achieve results through people. That is in the business world, profit; in the football world, winning games. So there's a great parallel. The ingredients to achieve those results are very similar. You have to look at people within your team, you have to look at their strengths, you have to play to those strengths, you have to define their roles so there's great clarity about what's expected of them, and give them feedback on how they're performing. In the business world, that could be one-on-ones, or it could be a performance management process. In the football world, it's a little bit more immediate, because you know how you're performing actually during the game, because you're either winning or losing or drawing. But the process is the same. This ability to look at, how we're doing. Am I doing okay? So there's roles, there's responsibilities, there's a scorecard in each area to help get the best out of people, and motivate and incentivize and so on. And so those are similarities. Of course, then you've got to take those individuals and build them into a team. A team that communicates with each other, a team that has a goal, a team that is always looking to improve and get better. And as a leader, you have to enable and encourage those sort of team characteristics, because they take it from you. And another great similarity is that in building this type of culture of high performance, as a leader, you need to be constantly in touch with your people and encouraging them and giving them pathways to develop. In the business world, that's through learning and development, that's through setting individual development and personal plans. In the football world, it's actually coaching. You train every night, you coach every night. You have a focus and a strategy in how you want to win the game. You have a strategy in the business, how you want to win the game of business in what you're doing. And in the football world, you coach those players every day so that they can get better individually and then collectively. And that's what we should be doing in business as a leader, coaching and developing our people every day. so they get better individually and they get better collectively as a team. It's a really important part of leadership, and it's an important part of winning the game of business and winning the game of football. So that's an interesting parallel. Also, it's interesting enough that both within business and in football you have boundaries. In the football, you have the football pitch, and people operate and work within those boundaries, and you have a strategy and you have a system and process for winning the game. In business, it's the same. You set the boundaries as a leader within which we want to operate as a business, and then you build processes and systems so that people are enabled to get on and do their job as best they can and build the performance of the company to achieve the results that you want. So there's a similarity there. So as you can see, I'm building this picture of great similarities between business and the football world, and the way that we as leaders would coach the football team and lead the football team and coach and lead our people. And I think that when I sit back and reflect on that, I often take things that I did in the coaching world in football and say, you know, I'm not doing that in the business world. I need to start doing it. And it just helps remind me of the process of winning the game of business and winning the game of football. They're great similarities. There's a great number of similarities.
That's very interesting. And you had very vast experience in the leadership as well, and especially in the region Middle East as well. Also, you've been into the Europe and the other parts of the world as
Yes.
well. If I ask you from your perspective, what is leadership? How can we express that?
It's leadership is about getting the best out of people. Yeah.
And based on your experience, once you have been in the leadership role, what were been the most profound challenges you have come across?
Oh, crikey. The most profound challenges are taking a dysfunctional group of people and a team and helping them and showing them there's a better way to working, or there's a better way to playing the game of football, to show that we're stronger together, to show that we're interdependent of each other, and not a lone person working in a business, in a silo, or in a football team just working to achieve your own goals. It's better to work independently as a team. We're stronger and we can achieve a lot more. And it's getting people to realize that, people who perhaps have not been performing as well as they might, and showing them that there is this better way, that if we enable them, if we encourage them, if we develop them, and we set those boundaries I talked about, and they have this role clarity, that they can achieve amazing things, both individually and as a team together. But it's taking them from that position of, we're not doing so well, I'm not enjoying my job, I'm not engaged in my job, to the right hand side to say, this is good, I'm really doing well, the team is doing well, we're getting the results, I'm getting recognized, I'm being appreciated by my leadership, I've been encouraged, I've developed, I've moved up in my career. This is something that is worthwhile. This gives me a sense of purpose and a meaning in my life. And the greatest challenge is taking them from that left-hand side to the right-hand side. Yeah.
And if we compare, for example, our careers now, it's been quite a decades. And if we reflect upon 3 decades, 2 decades back,
Yes.
the world was totally different.
Yes.
Now it's a bit more digitization of each and everything. The
Yes.
opportunities are in abundance. It has transformed into a global village altogether. Question is, based on your experience, especially for the young professionals who are about to enter into a professional line, or they are thinking about which direction they should follow, what is your advice for them,
Yeah.
for the people, especially in today's
We've got to go back a little bit to answer that question. I've got to go back a little bit because when we were growing up, the world was different, as you've said, and it was all about a career. You know, what is your career going to be? And let's select a career almost from school, and let's go for that career, educate myself for that career, and stay in that career for a long period of time, and then retire. That was the sort of process. Well, all that's changed now. With today's in today's society, today's culture, it's not about that career anymore. It's about a portfolio of careers. It's about a number of jobs in which I can find jobs that engage me, that give me a sense of purpose and meaning, that are in accordance with my values. And so it's purpose-driven and values-driven a world that we live in now. And many of our young millennials and Generation Zs, that's what attracts them to work. You know, they want to go to work and have a sense of meaning and a sense of purpose. They want to belong to an ethical company, one of integrity, one that has the same values as them, and they want to go there and do well. And they want the freedom to be encouraged and enabled. They want feedback on their performance because they want to see how they're doing, and so those are drivers for them in terms of seeking work. They're not necessarily, because they've seen over the years that companies aren't necessarily loyal to their people. You know, if there's a downturn, they lay off people. If they're growing, they take on people. There isn't a great sense of loyalty necessarily from many companies to their workforce and their people, and they see that. And so nowadays, it's almost that they have the same mindset. You know, look, I'll go into a job that provides me with those drivers we talked about, purpose, meaning, etc. And then I'll do that for a few years, and then I'll move out of that job. And there's something else. It's not only about, you know, for us it was about going into a job. But today there's this portfolio idea, and the gig economy has grown up, particularly since COVID, where people will work from home. You know, we've taken this idea of you need to be in country A to work in country A. That's gone. You can now work remotely from anywhere in the world. And so you've got this ability to have this sort of gig economy where for a few years I might work in a company, I might then come out of the company and work as a contractor to that company, I might work as a supplier to that company. I have this element of choice. I might take a few years off and come back to the world of work. This sort of freedom, this idea of this freedom of choice, I think is much more prevalent today than it was 20 years ago. I think COVID has accelerated that sort of digitization and that change in thinking, because I was reading a statistic just the other day, you know, that said that about 80% of the workforce are not engaged in their jobs. Now that's a sad reflection on leadership, Cameron. That's a sad reflection on leadership and the way that we lead people and the way that we help them and enable and encourage them to become the best that they can become and do the best that they can. It's a sad reflection. So I think that there's been this sort of this idea of this great resignation. I'm not going to go back to the way that we worked before COVID. No, I've got much more freedom and choice, and that our younger generation are seizing that opportunity, and that has led, hence there's such a great shortage of people in the workforce, because people are having other choices. The world of work needs to catch up a bit. You know, it needs to become more flexible.
Absolutely right, Andy. And I was just thinking about that when we are having a freedom of choice. Now, sometimes the professionals also been in the crossroad sometime, and they are evaluating all the time whether they have to remain in the job, that they have to start their own business. What is your advice? I mean, what they should do.
I think we need to go back to fundamentals, and the fundamental question is, what is the vision for my life? You know, and I always go back to that Stephen Covey question. You know, imagine, you know, you're thinking from the end in mind. that question that Stephen Covey sort of poses to us, that says, you know, we are 90. We're going to our 90th birthday.
Yeah.
And at that birthday, there is a friend, there is a work colleague, there are our children, there are people from the community who have known us and from our church who know us, and they're all going to give a eulogy about us, about me. The question is, what would you like them to say about you in terms of what you've done and who you are, and how you've been as a father and as a work colleague and as a colleague within the community? And so when you sort of pose that question to yourself, you begin to think about, what is your vision for your life? You put yourself in the future, you're looking back with that question, but at the same time you're beginning to write out ideas in terms of what is the vision for your life. And you can segment it if you want. You can take that and say, okay, looking at the vision for my life, what is the vision for my life in terms of my relationships? What is the vision in terms of my experience that I want to have in life? What is the vision for my life in terms of what I want to achieve in my life, my goals and ambitions? And just segment it and start to write and think about that. It requires some deep thinking and introspection. It may require a conversation like this between you and I, where we're exploring these ideas. But that's where it starts. Once you've got clear on that, you can then begin to establish goals for those areas, those things you want to achieve. And I know that some people, you know, goal setting, you know, it really does work.
Yeah.
You set those goals and you set that goal setting machine in your mind to start working on these goals, and you should write those goals out in a smart way and put them up on the wall in your office or in your house, and so you're looking at them very often and thinking about them often, and then move towards those goals. And you can be saying to yourself, is what I'm doing now taking me towards the achievement of those goals or taking me away? So you have now a way of looking at your life. You've taken your vision for your life, you've set your goals, and you have a way of looking at what you're doing to make it this comparison. Am I moving towards where I want to go, or am I moving away? And if I'm moving away from where I want to go, then now I need to change. I need to change and make a correction, just like the aircraft does with the GPS system, and bring me back to the path I want to take in my life.